Hi there. Thanks for joining me for this video where we're talking about how to build happy workplaces in tech. Why are we talking about this? Well, for a number of reasons. First of all, tech is a huge sector in itself. So many people work there, and there is a ton of stress and burnout in the tech sector. So many people are overworked, so many people are not happy at work, so many people feel stressed. And I don't think that's okay. I think we need to do something about that, especially because tech is inherently creative and complex work. There are very few simple problems in tech. The simple problems have all been solved a long time ago. So we need people to be creative. We need people to work at their best. And they can't do that if they're unhappy, stressed, and burning out. So we're going to talk about that. Also, I mean, there are a lot of tech companies, but almost every large company these days is at least partly a tech company. For instance, I've had a lot of clients. I've done a lot of speaking and consulting with clients in pharma or in finance, like banking, insurance, and they all have huge tech and IT departments. So we're not just talking about the tech companies themselves. We're also talking about the tech teams, the IT teams inside these massive companies. And every company has like IT, like development, like tech, like operations, that kind of thing. So this affects pretty much every industry, and it's currently not looking good. Here are some numbers I found from a survey from the UK. An international survey conducted by a company in the UK. They asked over 30,000 people, and they said that 62% of tech professionals feel physically and emotionally drained due to their jobs. 69% of women and 56% of men feel run down and drained of energy after a workday, and 2 out of 5 showed a high risk of burnout, and 40% considered quitting their role in the next 6 months. Those are not good numbers. It shouldn't be like that in any industry. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how to turn that around and create happy tech companies. These are the topics that I have planned. First of all, why even focus on happiness at work? Can we just keep them stressed and burned out, and I'm sure they'll perform great? And of course they won't. Happy employees do better, especially in something knowledge intensive, information work like tech. We're going to talk about the specific demands that tech workers have. I mean, of course, everybody's different. They're not all the same, but there are some trends in what makes tech workers happy or unhappy at work. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about what kind of leadership works well and what kind of leadership fails with tech workers. And finally, I'm going to share some examples from tech companies, really happy tech companies that I have personal experience with, that I know really, really well. But let's start with why even focus on happiness at work. And there is so much research on this, so much research showing that happy employees do a better job. And these are some of the effects that we have found so far. I collect all of these studies that show this. So we know that happy employees are more productive, they're more creative, they're more helpful, give better customer service if they're in a customer-facing role, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, you could look at this list and you could ask yourself, which of these do you think are most relevant specifically for tech workers, right? I mean, all of these are great, clearly, but if you have a team of software developers or a team of IT people or a team of ops people, which of these might be most relevant? I don't know about you, but I think some of these might be the most relevant. Like productive, I mean, you want them to do a lot of work in as little time as possible, right? Creative, I think, is super important. I think it's under recognized just how creative tech work is. You're never solving the same problem in tech twice. You're always solving new problems. If you're always writing code that does something that's never been done before, because if a code exists that has done it before, you can buy that code or use that code. So you're always solving new problems. You're always coming up with new methods, new ideas, new tools, new approaches. It's inherently creative. I don't think people recognize that enough. More helpful. If you're not careful, you can create IT teams where everybody hugs their own little knowledge base to themselves and refuses to share and help others, and you definitely don't want that. More focused on quality. You want people to care about the quality of the work they put out. Better team players. You want people to work well together. More open to other people, open to new ideas. Optimistic, motivated, and engaged, clearly. And learn faster. I mean, the tech world never stands still, right? There's always new approaches, new tech, new tools coming out, and you want people to be able to learn those. And we know that happy people learn faster. So I think it's very very clear that especially for knowledge heavy work like tech, happiness at work is incredibly important, and happy people do better work and create better results and make the company more profitable. On a like a one specific study was done at the University of Warwick in the UK, and in this specific study, they actually tested it. They gave people coding tasks, brought in software developers, gave them a coding task, and then measured how fastly and how fast and how accurately they solved this problem. And then some of them were treated, as they called it, before they started working on the task. And the treatment was very, very simple. They could either watch a funny YouTube video that made them laugh, they maybe got a piece of chocolate that they could enjoy. So, like a tiny little thing to put them in a slightly better mood. And the study found that those who had been treated were 12% more productive than those who were not. I mean, something small as a piece of chocolate or a funny YouTube video had a measurable effect on people's productivity. So this is a very practical example of how this actually does work. And again, tons of studies on how happiness at work makes us more productive. Next question is, so what is it that makes tech people happy at work? And it's not, you know what, it's not too different from everybody else. We're all just people. Tech people are their own little breed, but they're also people like everybody else. And according to the research, there are two main factors that make us happy at work. And if you followed our work at all, you'll know that we are always harping on about these two: results and relationships. That's sort of our model for distilling down all the data on what makes people happy at work. Results is when you do good work. When you know that you make a difference, you can achieve your goals, you're valued for the work you do. And most of all, when you know that your results are meaningful. You're not just checking off items on a to-do list. You know that you are actually doing work that helps somebody somewhere. For instance, specifically for a tech worker, you might be creating a software system and you can see that it helps the users do their work better and faster, maybe. So results is incredibly important and a major, major driver of happiness at work. And then the other thing that really makes us happy at work is relationships. It's that feeling that I belong, I am part of the team, I am valued not just as a resource, but also as a human being. I have a good relationship with my coworkers. I have a good relationship with my boss. That's incredibly important. The most important relationship in the workplace is your relationship with your boss. And if you have a bad relationship with your immediate manager, you're not going to be happy at work. That's just the way it is. So these relationships, this feeling that I belong, I'm valued, I'm part of the team, is incredibly important for our happiness at work. There's a ton of research on that. Again, it's not about, we don't all have to be best friends at work. It's just that feeling that, we support each other, we like each other, we value each other. So these two things, results, relationships, are the two main drivers of happiness at work. I'm not saying that's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about happiness at work, but I do believe that 80% of our happiness at work is explained by those two factors. And 80% of our unhappiness at work is explained by the absence of these two factors. Imagine a job where you don't get results, like you can never achieve your goals, you can never fulfill your to-do list, or your work is completely meaningless. You have no sense of why this work makes any difference for anybody else. Or a job where you have terrible relationships. You're not valued. Maybe you're being bullied. You're being isolated. Maybe you had terrible relationship with your manager. If you have that, you're not going to be happy at work. Results and relationships, doing great work together with great people. That's what makes us happy at work. And that's true for everybody, regardless of industry, regardless of culture, regardless of where in the world you are, I've found. But that being said, there are things that tech workers tend to value more than everybody else. And these are the ones. And I speak from personal experience here because I actually come originally from the tech world. Before I started speaking about doing speeches about happiness at work all over the world, I was in tech. I was a software developer. I have a master's degree in computer science. And I was a coder. I developed software solutions for various clients and co-founded a tech company, an IT company in Copenhagen in 1997, together with two other people, grew that to 20 people, and then sold it. So I have specific experience in this field. I used to be one. And here are my observations. 4 things that tech workers value more than other industries do. And I think one is doing things right. People in tech tend to care deeply about the quality of their work and about doing the work right. And I think they do that because tech is inherently, you need to do things right. Like if you're coding something and you misplace a comma, everything stops working, right? Nothing works. You can ruin everything with a misplaced update to the database. So people clearly value doing things right, not just doing them quickly or cheaply, but doing them right with the right tools, with the right methodology, in the right way. Um, Tech workers tend to value consistency and fairness. They hate it when people say one thing and they do something else. Um, they value when, if these are the rules, then let's follow the rules. If this is the process, then let's follow the process. If these are the tools, then let's use the tools. Um, Again, because that's how you create good work in tech, by having a process and following the process, by having good structure. Structure and predictability. And again, it's super hard for tech workers to do a good job if there is no structure or predictability. For instance, if the specs for whatever you're trying to build keep changing, I've tried that myself. I was doing work for a customer, and every week when we had a status meeting, they changed the specs again. They wanted it in a different way, and then the next week they want a different way. You can't work like that. You want predictability. You want to know that if this is what we're building, then this is what we're delivering. It's not going to change every week. That really sucks. Um, and finally, I think tech people, more than a lot of other groups, want to be valued for their skills, want to be valued for their knowledge and for their professionalism. Um, this can be a little bit of a double-edged sword. I've also seen people in tech get very defensive about their work. Like, if you criticize my code, you're criticizing me. And you need to know that. They need to feel valued for their skills. That is definitely something that matters a lot to people in tech. Um, why these four? Part of it is what I said, that tech work requires structure and care, right? You get a little detail wrong somewhere and nothing works. But I think part of the explanation is also that there are a lot of neurodivergent people in tech. This is not new. A survey from the UK found that 53% of tech workers self-identified as neurodivergent in some ways, maybe somewhere on the spectrum, for instance. And we know that people on the spectrum, people with ADHD, that kind of thing, tend to value structure. They tend to value fairness, and clear communication. So maybe that's why. Also, a lot of kids with neurodivergent kids are attracted to computers. Spend a lot of time on their computers, maybe coding their computers. That's certainly what I did. I got my first computer when I was 16 years old, Sinclair ZX81. And I coded on that, and then on my Commodore 64, and where else was I gonna go except into tech and do a master's in computer science, right? So I think these are things that tech workers especially value, so what kind of management? We're talking about management here. What kind of management do they need? Well, they need managers that can deliver on this. And managers that can create results and relationships for them, plus focus on this. Give them the respect they want for their knowledge. Give them the consistency of fairness that they value, structure and predictability. So there are some things that managers also need to avoid, I think, and I see this a lot, because there's a bit of a culture clash, right? There's a tech culture and a management culture, and they're very different, right? So what I've seen go wrong specifically is, for instance, that managers downplay training and development. I tried this specifically. My second IT job, I had a manager who specifically said, no, we're not going to buy you any courses. We're not going to pay for any training you do, because why should we train our employees? They're just going to leave anyway. And I was like, okay, that sucks. By the way, this was the same manager who was, this was very, very early on in the internet days. And this is the same manager who told me that the internet is never going to amount to anything. It's a flash in the pan. CompuServe, that's the future. Oh my God, I'm old. So that's definitely a mistake, that managers try to save money by not giving their employees the training and development they need to stay up to date on their skills set. That's not okay. Another thing I see is red tape. Stuff like excessive time registration of hours, that kind of thing. Maybe something like a strict dress code. Why should the company care what I wear? I'm sitting at my computer doing code. If I want to wear socks and sandals and cargo shorts, I should be allowed to. Why have a dress code? Why do I need to wear a suit and tie? It makes no sense. That kind of thing. Classic management mistake for tech people is overly optimistic deadlines. The managers really want to deliver this system sooner, so they pressure the tech people to, yeah, you say it's going to take a year, but I'm sure you can do it in 6 months. Just like work a little harder. I'm sure you can do it. And that creates a lot of stress and, again, unpredictability for the tech workers. And what it also creates is a lot of overwork. And many, many companies in tech have this culture of overwork. This culture that, well, we have a strict deadline, so we just need to work harder. We just need to work more hours. We should sleep in the office. And that is just absolutely terrible. An example that I see a lot right now, this is from a Fast Company article from last week. This is very, very recent, saying, goodbye to the 9 to 5 and hello to the 996. If you haven't heard about 996, it's a terrible idea. It was, I think, for the first time I heard about it, was promoted by Jack Ma, the founder of the Chinese tech company Alibaba. And the idea behind 996 is that you work from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening, 6 days a week. Yeah, so you have like one little day off, but otherwise you're working 12-hour days. That's a 72-hour work week, and that is completely, absolutely insane. But a lot of tech companies specifically hold that up as the ideal. They hold that up as something you should do to show your commitment to the organization. And that's just absolutely terrible. I have a whole 1.5 hour long video on the culture of overwork and how it hurts people and how to stop it. I'm going to link to that in the materials for this video as well. So these are some of the mistakes that managers can avoid, that I see a lot of managers make, that make their IT staff, their tech staff burn out, make them stressed, make them unhappy and less productive. So what are some good examples? I want to share 6 tech companies that I know intimately, who are doing or have been doing really, really cool things to keep their tech staff happy. And I'm going to start with my own company. This is a picture from way back when. This picture is from 2002, I believe. See if you can spot me in that picture. Bottom to the outside, front row outside. So we focused a lot on creating a happy workplace for ourselves and our staff. And one of the things we focused on was vacation time. So we gave everybody 6 weeks of vacation, and we had a rule that you had to take it. You must take all of your vacation. We followed up on whether or not everybody had done it, and made sure that everybody had been away from the office at least 6 weeks every year. And the other thing we really focused on was training and development. And we didn't want to dictate what everybody focused on, but what we did instead was that we gave every person a budget, an annual training budget of 40,000 Danish kroner. That's about 5,000 euros. And you had that budget, and you were obliged to spend it. You had to spend that money. It wasn't like you could, okay, I'm going to spend half of it. No, we followed up with every single person, and we made sure that they actually did spend all of that on some kind of relevant training every single year. And that helped make sure that everybody was up to date. Everybody's skills were fresh. So people knew what they were like, had knowledge of the latest tools and approaches and methods. I thought that was I'm very proud of that. That was definitely one example. Here's another example from Denmark. This is from a company in Aarhus, Denmark, second biggest city, called Vertica. And they're a super cool company, like no dress codes. They don't even have any bosses. They make all their decisions together. But one thing they also focus on a lot is positive feedback. Here's this section is from their homepage, from their website, where they say, "We love praising each other when someone does something cool. That's why we have a dedicated Slack channel for recognition and high fives. This is where we send kudos to a colleague who makes Monday morning a good experience, the colleague who crushes a hairy problem, the colleague who once again organized a Friday bar, the colleague who creates fantastic team spirit, the colleague who develops some kick-ass code. It often turns out to be the little things we all contribute together." I thought that's a fantastic and very, very simple way to do it. Like, they have this Slack, they have Slack anyway for all their project needs, communication. So why not use it and have a dedicated Slack channel for positive feedback, to make sure that people feel valued, That creates both a feeling of results, like what a great way you solve that problem yesterday. I'm being respected for my work, but also creates relationships when we value each other for being good coworkers. So I think this is a super simple and very, very effective way to do it. Another company that I really admire, tech company that I really admire, is the Australian tech company Atlassian. They're massive, thousands of employees. This is from their offices in Austin. Doesn't that look cool? And one of the things they have that I really admire is that one of their corporate values. This is from their website. This is their corporate values, and I think a lot of these are are very, very good for tech workers. And my favorite one is the first one: open company, no bullshit. Yes, the word bullshit is on their website, and it's part of their company values. So they value open communication. They want to share information. They don't want to bullshit people with management speak. They want to let people know what's going on, as they say, whenever practical or sometimes when impractical. And I think that's a great way to treat people in tech, to communicate with them openly and with no bullshit. The next value, build with heart and balance, is about taking care and making sure that we're doing the right thing. Again, hugely effective for tech workers. And the final one is don't screw the customer, which again is great for tech workers because we value fairness. We don't like to be cheated ourselves. We don't like to see other people cheated. So being fair, doing the right thing is something that tech workers value a lot. And I like that they have baked this right into their corporate values, especially the no bullshit one. I think that's fantastic. Cool. Another tech company that I really admire is Menlo Innovations. They're amazing. They're based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And one of their co-founders, Rich Sheridan, is a good friend of mine. He's also written a book called Joy Inc. and Leading with Joy. You should absolutely read them. They're both fantastic. And at Menlo Innovations, they do a lot of so many cool things to create a good culture where people are happy and productive. For instance, no overwork. As he put it, he's never said no to a vacation request or a request for time off or a day off. They're just very, very good at planning their work so they don't, put too much work on people and force them to work overtime. That's something I think that's amazing. But my favorite thing that they do is that they do all of their work in pairs. You may have heard of extreme programming, which has something called pair programming, where you have two developers sitting at one computer with one keyboard, so that you're actually working together and you can take turns typing, but you're developing everything together. And what that does is that it makes sure that people are always working with someone, and you're always learning because if you can't figure out how to solve that, maybe your coding partner has an idea. This also means that they can bring new employees up to speed very, very quickly. You don't need to go away for a training camp for a couple of months to learn all of their techniques and tools and approaches. You can just sit there and do it with one of the experienced employees, and watch how they do it, and they can learn it very, very quickly. And my absolute favorite thing they do is that they also hire in pairs. They have a fantastic recruiting interview process where they bring applicants in, they put them in pairs and make them work together to see who can actually work together with another person or who just wants to show off their own skills. And I think that's a brilliant idea. In the materials for this video, I'll link to some more to an article that explains how they do this in practice. There's a lot to learn from their pair approach. This pair approach also means that nobody's indispensable. If somebody needs to take a vacation, if somebody has a kid and needs parental leave, there's no specific knowledge in their head that nobody else has because everybody's working together. So that makes their whole system a lot more flexible and a lot less fragile and vulnerable. Yes. By the way, they also have dogs and babies in the office, and I think that's amazing. Two more. I love this company, Vega IT. I'm a huge fan of them. I've been following their work for, I don't know, almost 15 years, I think. They're based in Novi Sad in Serbia. And they have created such a great culture there that really has made them incredibly successful. They do software development projects for clients all over the world. This is their new building headquarters in Novi Sad in Serbia. Absolutely gorgeous. They do so many cool things to create a great workplace, but my favorite thing is that they have focused on their purpose, on making sure that work is meaningful for all of Vegas employees. And when I was there the last time, I saw this written on the wall that says, "Our dream is to make a happy and successful business that would allow us to use its success and power to create a better world." I think that is absolutely fantastic, because this means that if you work at if you work at Vega, you're not just creating software solutions for clients, you're actually making the world better in some way. And they do this in a million ways. They have various charity events. They have various support various causes around Serbia and around the world. But my favorite thing they do is once a year they do something called Code for a Cause. And what that is, that they will develop software solutions very, very quickly for free for organizations who need it but can't pay for it. So like NGOs or charities who need a new website or a new app or a new database or a new whatever, they can develop that for them. So organizations will apply, they'll describe the problem that they need solved, and then Vega employees will get together, maybe some designers, some architects, some developers, and they will deliver that solution very, very quickly. And this is super cool because once again, you're using your skills for something meaningful. You're making a positive difference in the world. You're helping some people, which feels amazing. But also, you're making connections. You're creating relationships with your fellow employees at Vega, because you're working together intensely on this project and delivering that together. So that, again, creates results and relationships, makes these people use their skills for something good in the world. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And I'm going to link to an article that describes the results from their latest Code for a Cause in the video materials. It's kind of like a hackathon, but instead of working on internal company problems like you normally do in a hackathon, you work on external problems for charities or NGOs, that kind of thing. I think it's a beautiful idea. The final company I'll mention that does something cool for their tech workers is Spotify. And Spotify has this work from anywhere philosophy that they have had since the company started. And in a time where a lot of tech companies are forcing employees back into the office, which I think is the dumbest idea ever, they're very, very clear that we are absolutely not going to do that. Here's what their HR manager said. You can't spend a lot of time hiring grown-ups and then treat them like children. We are a business that's been digital from birth, so why shouldn't we give our people flexibility and freedom? Work is not a place you come to, it's something you do. I mean, brilliant. Yes, that's the way it should be. So if you get a job at Spotify, you choose if you want to come into the office every day, if you want to come into the office part-time, or if you want to work from home full-time. That is completely up to you, and I think that is absolutely brilliant. And this idea of treating your employees like, adults who can make their own decisions, I think is absolutely brilliant in a time where it seems like a lot of tech CEOs and a lot of CEOs in general are hell-bent on forcing people back into the office. I have a whole other video, I'm going to link to that in the materials as well, on why that's a dumb idea and why it is doomed to fail when you try to force people back to the office. One of the reasons why is that, people say they will and they just don't. There is very little compliance with return to office mandates. I think that's hilarious. Cool. Thanks for joining me for this video. A couple of things. If you want to know more about happiness at work, you should join our Chief Happiness Officer Academy. The next one is in March in Copenhagen. 3 days with a deep dive into all the theory and practice around happiness at work. Join us for that. You can find more information on our website. I'll link to that in the company videos, in the video materials. And finally, if you want to know, if you want to measure happiness at work, you should check out Heart Count, which was actually developed by Vega IT in Serbia. It's our tool for measuring happiness at work. Once a week, every employee fills out 3 questions, takes like 10 seconds, and then you have measurable, actionable data on how every single employee is doing inside the organization. So you can act on that right away and make sure that nobody's burning out or stressed and everybody's happy and productive. And finally, if you want to know more about happiness at work, you can, of course, book me to come speak in your organization. I am, in all modesty, pretty awesome. 9.6 rating out of 10 for the last 300 talks I've done. Thank you so much for watching, and stay happy.